The Legion of Christ continues to avoid compensating victims of sexual abuse by its founder, Father Maciel, Legionary of Christ. This is Paul Lennon, staff of Regain Incorporated, bringing you the latest news on the Legion of Christ's through true nature and through modus operandi. Legion of Christ continues to avoid compensating victims of sexual abuse by its founder, Maciel. Abuse that occurred in the 1950s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, and they still have not compensated those victims who are now in their 80s. It's a question of stalling, of playing cat and mouse with the victims, and waiting for them to die off so as to avoid responsibility. 1 year ago, the Legion of Christ, Regnum Christi Federation proudly published its chapter documents, Conversion and Repair, Protect and Heal, and Report of Abuse, in which it formally promised to compensate the victims for the damages of sexual abuse suffered at the hands of founder Father Maciel, Legionary of Christ. Today we want to inform the public what has become of such words, documents, and promises. That in fact the Legion of Christ, as represented by Father Robles Gil and Regnum Christi Federation, Father John Connor, have once again de facto answered, no, we will not, to the historical victims. Another year has gone by without effective reparation. A lot of cat and mouse. What did the historical victims demand of Director General Father John Connor at the meeting they had 1 year ago? 1. That the Legion Regnum publish an apology in the same media in which victims were falsely accused and unjustly libeled in 1997, so as to repair their good name, reputation, and that of the relatives inheriting this name. That it be declared unambiguously that they were not conspirators, that they were telling the truth, that the Legion's false accusations has caused them to lose their jobs and have affected their careers, income, relationships, friendships, marriages, and families for decades later. How did the Legion of Christ respond? How did the Legion of Christ respond? In the negative. We will not publish anything in major newspapers or with international reach, unless in the Hartford Courant, the newspaper in which the Legion originally published the false accusations and documents against the accusers. 2. Victims requested that a team of 6 be chosen, 3 from the LC and 3 from the victims, to determine together the extent of damage the legionaries had caused them and reach an agreement on just compensation. How did the Legion of Christ respond? In the negative. At said meeting, a legionary priest, who we do not want to name, representing the order, pulled out his pocket calculator in front of the accusers, made calculations re Mexican minimum wages, and offered 450,000 pesos, approximately $22,000, to each victim to repair decades of international abuse, harm, and defamation. The Legion of Christ Regnum Christi Federation demanded they sign a confidential agreement, mug order, as a requirement to continue deliberations. So one of the specializations, the great gifts of the Legion of Christ to the Catholic Church is placing mug orders and confidentiality agreements on those who act against them. Number 3, the victims had requested that Jose Barba, who had legal representation, requested in writing from the Director General that any communication or communications relevant to the deliberations go through him, Barber, their representative. How did the Legion of Christ respond? Saying, of course, but proceeding to do the very opposite. The present Director, Superior General of the institution, Father John Connor, whom we are holding personally responsible for this, Instead of honoring the agreement with Dr. Barba, he personally and directly approached several victims, going over the head of the legal representative and secretly offering them $5,000 individually, not as compensation, but as an Easter egg gift. With this treacherous strategy, Father Connor effectively split the group of plaintiffs and weakened their position. Where in the name of goodness is the honest goodwill of this apparently bona fide Catholic religious order? One cannot help appealing to the Holy See, to His Holiness, Pope Francis, to Cardinal Braz the Aviz, in charge of religious orders, to do something about this. Stop standing back from the legionaries of Christ as if they were some sacred cow that the Catholic hierarchy and the Vatican Curia has to adore, kneel down and adore the golden calf of the legionaries of Christ and Regnum Christi Federation. Is the Legion waiting for victims to die off and the problem to go away? One thinks so. Legion of Christ, Regnum Christi, waiting game continues. The 80-year-old victims are dying. Fernando Perez Olvera in 2020 and Father Felix Alarcón Hoyos in 2021. To protect its public image, the institution helped to defray costs of their terminal illness and funeral expenses, always in a very discreet and secretive way. But it has not compensated them in the proper and agreed manner. The group's de facto consistent priority is, as in other questionable groups, recruitment of the young, vulnerable, together with fundraising to train more young and vulnerable recruits, expand its projects, and promotes its image. If things go on like this, will the Legion of Christ, Regnum Christi Federation ever honor its obligations to the remaining victims and to the deceased dependents? Hopefully, they will not answer the same as always. What can be done after such a long time? But don't worry, we will pray for you. Statement by Support Network of Victims of Sexual Abuse by founder of the Legion of Christ, Regnum Christi Federation, Father Maciel, Legionary of Christ, on February the 26th, 2021, anniversary of the Legion's glorious and proud statements regarding compensation of Maciel's victims.